Well, hello and good evening. Welcome to Broadway. This is our first official BFI Film Academy Lab at Broadway. It's titled Getting into Film, How to Get Your Foot in the Door. My name is Townsend. I'm Broadway's Learning and Training Coordinator, but also I am the lead for all BFI Film Academy activity at Broadway. Tonight's lab is focusing on getting your foot in the door of the film industry, and we are here to provide you with lots of tips, tricks and practical insights. Our panel have experience in a array of opportunities, placements, paid work and careers within BFI Film Academy, BFI Network, BAFTA, ScreenSkills and many more. So this talk will be hosted by me, and it will feature our four lovely industry experts here, all around Nottingham. But before I introduce them, I do have some housekeeping points to make. Tonight's lab is being recorded and it will be put on Broadway's YouTube channel within the next week or so, and it's being filmed by our lovely BFI Film Academy alumni Lawrence Mason-Guetta right at the back. He is also going to be capturing some behind the scenes photos from you guys and also us here, so just keep that in mind. And what we'll do is we'll take questions at the end, so do make sure that you take notes throughout, and we really do encourage questions. Yeah. We really are encouraging questions from you lot. And lastly, you will be emailed a survey after the screening, after this talk, sorry. It's just to get a few details from you, and also it's part of our kind of funding agreement with the BFI. So if you could all complete that, that'd be excellent. So now, onto our four brilliant individuals. So to the far end of my right, I have producer, advocate of nurturing and supporting talent and BFI Network talent exec for the Midlands, Alex Jackson. Lovely. Woo. And then to Alex's left, I have Broadway BFI Film Academy 2018 graduate and camera trainee on Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Mouthful. Sorry, mouthful. And BAFTA mentee Ravi Ghelani. Woo! And then next to Ravi, I have 2017 graduate, a filmmaker of all areas and COVID floor supervisor on ITV's upcoming Without Sin TV drama, Millan Hart.
Hello.
And then last but not least, I have 2018 graduate and editor trainee on No Time to Die, Harriet Kennedy. Oh. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for being here this evening. Really, really appreciate it. So I'm just going to jump straight in and ask my great panel how they got into their career and how they got into the industry and whether they envisioned where they are now.
Shall I start?
Go on, Harriet.
Okay. Of course, that's why you put me here. So I started here at Broadway. We did like a BFI Film Academy that I applied for when I was 17, and I wasn't too sure where I wanted to go. I knew it was editing really, but I wanted to try out other things, and obviously at the academy you can try out all the different departments. So yeah, started here, did the Film Academy here, which is a few months of just like doing workshops and etc., learning how to do bits and bobs and make your own film basically with a group of people. And then from then onwards did another film academy thing at the National Film and Television School in Beaconsfield.
Mm-hmm. And that's 15 days, isn't it?
Yeah, that's like 2 weeks, just sort of focusing on a specific area that you want to do, and mine was editing. So you get an industry professional in to teach you their ways, basically. And yeah, that's what I did. I focused on editing there, and the film got shown at the South Bank in London, and I basically spoke to a Lucasfilm representative there, and that's how I got my foot in, kind of. But yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, you were at Confetti.
Yeah, I just worked it out in my head, and that was like 7 years ago, which was terrifying to think about. Yeah, I started out at Confetti, and there, the first proper foot in the door was Luke Radford, who is taught at the Film Academy now. He was making a feature film way back then, and he grabbed a load of students basically to be runners on it. And so that's where I started, really. Within the first day of being a runner on that, I ended up as the first AD. And so then I could say that at 18 years old, I was the first AD on a feature film. That film did some stuff at Cannes, ended up on Netflix and all of that. So it was kind of complete luck of the draw, really, that I got in so close with him. And then, yeah, that gave me the ability to then say, hey, I've done this. Hire me on other things, please.
I guess I started making like no-budget short films on a DSLR, and I really had no idea how to get into the industry. It wasn't until I did like the BFI Academy at the Broadway cinema, where we are right now, and that was in 2018, I believe. And that was when I first started to see like industry mentors coming in, like professional editors that were working on feature films, and I realized it was like a proper way to make a living and stuff as well. So then I started taking things a bit more seriously and trying to, I guess, become a runner on set. But there weren't really many areas. Is this? Okay, it's working, sorry. I just thought I went quieter all of a sudden, but maybe it's just me. And then, yeah, I sort of, I think I heard about the BFI Future Skills scheme, which is basically a scheme that the BFI are doing. And if you're alumni of the BFI, you get to apply and become a trainee on a feature film. So I met some representatives from Lucasfilm, and they kind of gave me the talk down of how it was, and I applied for that, and that was my first feature film job.
Okay, I'm a tiny bit older than the rest of the lovely panel, as you might have noticed. So I went to Sheffield Hallam University, and I was doing a degree in film studies, but it was very, very theoretical. And I felt like it was quite unfair of me to be analysing films without having any understanding of how they were made. So I started going to night school to learn how films were made, and there I met this amazing bunch of people who were all these creative people who were problem solving, making films, and they're people I'm still friends with today. So after going to night school and finishing my degree, I didn't know what to do with myself, and I ended up working in a cinema, front of house, and worked my way up, became the education manager at that cinema, and started film programming. And from that point, I was also making shorts in my spare time, helping other filmmakers connect with each other. Then we made a feature film that premiered on Netflix last December. And I was sat at my desk one day, and this job came up, BFI Network Talent Executive, based at Broadway in Nottingham. And it was so rare at the time to see any films in the film industry, any jobs, in the film industry that were based in the Midlands. And Broadway had kind of made this this great place for that kind of work to take place, so much so that BFI felt that they could trust to have one of their executives here in the building. And I applied for the job, didn't think I was going to get it, and I did, and that's how I ended up here.
Brilliant, thank you. And don't know if you're interested. I did an apprenticeship when I was 16 at Broadway through the Mighty Creatives, which are still going, and they also did 3 other apprenticeships with other kind of similar organisations like Broadway and Nottingham. And then I was essentially doing events coordination and management under the educational officer at the time, and then Broadway kept me after that happened, and then 10 years on, I'm now responsible for activity, film-based activity at Broadway for 12 to 25-year-olds. So, yeah.
You're going to own the place in like 5 years, right? That's how it works.
Sorry, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really interesting actually to know that we're from like Nottingham, Leicester, Loughborough, and like Nottinghamshire, and you can have a really artistic and creative career within the industry. So following on from that, where did your creative aspirations come from? I'll let one of you jump in.
Go on, I'll take it. I did school, did secondary school, and then I don't know, sort of towards the end, it sort of lost me at some point, and then I started my A-levels there in like ICT and stuff like that, because I was like, that'll probably make me some money, buy a house eventually. But it was sort of at the point where I couldn't just skate by anymore, and so failed at that miserably. And then at that point I was kind of like, well, screw it, if I'm going to do this, I might as well do it properly. I'll try this pipe dream of filmmaking. And that was when I discovered Confetti and did an open day there, and then that's when all of a sudden I realised all those names at the end of a movie, all those credits, they're actual people with actual jobs, and maybe I could have one of those. Might be nice.
Yeah, so I was like a massive, I feel like my creative aspirations came from, I was quite an introverted kid, so I was very quiet, and a lot of the times I didn't really know how to sort of, I guess, express myself. I was also like a massive Lord of the Rings nerd, so I used to watch like a ton of behind the scenes with that stuff, and I was just like, that sounds really cool, like I'd love to make a film for a living and then also tell stories that I feel aren't necessarily being told, particularly around Asian culture as well. I feel like there's a lot of stories that I've always wanted to tell, just not had the kind of chance, and I felt filmmaking is probably the most powerful way to do that, because you know, you can go and see stories and they can really change your life in some kind of ways, so yeah.
So I've known I kind of wanted to work in film or on films from when I was quite little. And my granddad was really into like filming stuff with me when I was about 8, so I got my first camera when I was 8, and we just used to like run around and make stupid films together. But he had Movie Maker on his laptop, and we just used to like edit stuff together on that, and I thought, oh, it's really cool, you can actually see all the clips come together. And then yeah, I got my own software when I was 10, and I'd just try and get all my friends to make stuff with me. And like after school or on the weekends, I would go out and sort of do stupid films and music videos and stuff, and just sort of compiled all those together over the years and realised that's something that I wanted to do for a living. But yeah, that's kind of it for me.
So I'm dyslexic, and I found school really difficult, but I was obsessed with art and history, and I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could, but realised that art and history was like massive subjects, whereas film had been going for about 110 years at that point. I was like, well, I've got a much better shot at being able to learn absolutely everything about film than I do about history or art. And they combine those two. Film combines art and history so well. And that's kind of where my love of film began. And also, finding writing and reading quite difficult as well when I was younger. Films was such a great way of like telling stories and learning about other people. So kind of all stems from there for me.
Great stuff. I was wondering, before Millan, Harriet and Ravi did Film Academy, had you three heard of BFI Film Academy, BAFTA, ScreenSkills, BFI Network? Had you heard of all these kind of like leads for filmmaking and making?
So before I did the academy, I'd never heard of them before. But my uncle came to Broadway all the time, and he found out about it, so he told me straight away, basically. But when I found out about it, I thought it was really cool, because I thought you couldn't really do anything like that around here. So I was sort of thinking, oh, I've got to move to London when I'm 18, or this, that, and the other, and I was trying to figure everything out. But you can actually do film things in the Midlands, so it was kind of nice to see that as an option to start things out and practice and find out things about other departments before you jump right into the deep end of it all. So yeah.
Yeah, looking back, I was like genuinely oblivious to the amount of opportunities that there are, sort of like schemes and stuff. In fact, I didn't really even know about the BFI Academy until I think it was like a couple of days before the deadline. And actually my mom had just seen it, because she was kind of a little bit worried what I was going to do, because I didn't go to uni. And so she had just found, like, there's a BFI thing, you should try this out. And being from Leicester as well, it's not really promoted as much in Leicester, well, at the time anyway. So, yeah, that's kind of how I found out about the BFI, but I had no idea about any of the schemes until I did the BFI.
Yeah, I knew it existed. Well, I knew about like the BFI, BAFTA, and all of these entities existed from doing Confetti, because we touched on it, but I didn't realise that it was outside of London, basically. I always just assumed, oh, this stuff's in London, whatever, it's fine. And then I genuinely don't remember how I stumbled on the film academy.
I also thought you'd have to go to uni first to do anything like that, but obviously I was 17, like when I did the film academy, and I realised, oh, you don't actually have to go to uni to start working in film. You can just get all this practice and build up your own portfolio and work on stuff from this and other, well, BFI things.
As someone who went to uni for film, I'd maybe recommend not going to uni for film. It's a great time, but...
If you want to go to uni, yeah, go to uni, but it's not a necessity if you want to just get right into it, I guess. So, yeah, that was nice to figure out, so I didn't have to go to uni.
Thank you. And this is to all of you. Did you know about do you know when you look through like the credits of a film or a TV series and drama, like, did you know that it took thousands and thousands of people just to make this 1.5, 2 hour film, or like this 45-minute episode of TV that you really like? Like, did you know all of this before?
I mean, to be honest, everyone just sort of skips, unless you're watching a Marvel film, everyone just skips the credits. So, no. I mean, you know that they go on forever, but you don't actually sit until you've sat there and watched it all and realised, especially the art department, like how massive it is, and it just reels on for ages, and you just, each one of those names is a person that worked on that film, and it's kind of crazy to me that that is just individual people. I just didn't really think about that when I was watching them. I was just sort of waiting for the end credit scene. But
I'm still discovering roles that I didn't know I'm still discovering roles that I didn't know existed. Intimacy coordinator was the one on the last job. Someone whose job it is just for sex scenes, that's all they do. I don't know how you end up in that line of work, but yeah, that was a weird one.
Yeah, I was actually a bit of a nerd, and I used to end up watching all the credits after every kind of movie. So I kind of knew there was a lot of roles, but I wouldn't say I knew exactly what they did. Like, there was some titles I was like, what the hell? Like, what does that even mean? And yeah, I guess now I can sort of reflect back and say that I know some of it like way better, but there is still some that I feel like I don't have as much, knowledge in, I guess.
Yeah, same. I mean, I feel like I'm still learning all the time. Every time I used to see Best Boy come up on the screen, I was like, why is there a child working on it? But yeah, I think the industry is really changing as well, and intimacy coordinators are so vital, but we've got things like mental health advocates and COVID supervisors and, all these roles that are actually there to make people safer now. And you've got people who, accountants, caterers, hair and makeup, everything that happens in the world, everyone needs those roles in film as well. So there's lots of transferable roles into the industry.
No, definitely. There is a shortage. So if you are really, intellectual and you are great with money, there's definitely some jobs out there for you
Some very well paid jobs
yes.
as well.
There's roles for everyone. Like, there's, even if...
Like caterers, if
yeah,
you love
the
cooking.
catering, like, if you want to be a chef, like, you can actually go into catering, or there's... what was the really
Green
action...
team?
Yeah, but the action vehicles department was
Action
so
vehicles,
cool.
yeah.
Like, when you just literally make the cars and, like, the things like the spaceships in Star Wars and that sort of thing, that's such a cool department to me. Like, you literally just get to build the ships. I had no idea that was a thing. Like, because the trainees could just come in and... I mean, we were mates with one of the trainees that did, like, all the stuff on Star Wars. And it was so cool. Like, just she'd come back and say that she was working on, like, the Falcon that day or something. And I was like, whoa, that's really cool. And so, yeah, if you want to go to, like, engineering or that sort of thing, like, there's so many different departments in film that I think it just covers so much that it's, people just need to explore it more and not just stick to directing and producing and those sort of roles, because there's just such a variety of other roles that are actually kind of cooler than that. But
That's reminded me, actually, I didn't tell you about this, Ella, but the other week I worked as a caterer on a Netflix show.
No.
Yeah.
How fantastic.
Yeah, I really get about in the departments. that was a weird day.
Brilliant. So yeah, I think, as long as you're a nice person, you're professional, you're approachable, you're personable,
and just show you have a passion for it as well.
Yeah,
It's
and
sort of the main thing, really.
Yeah, could end up in the catering department one
Yeah,
day on Netflix.
I really love
Didn't mind it actually. It
getting
was all
mashed
right.
potato on people's plates.
Oh. But you know, as well as these roles, you have like chippies who are like carpenters or joiners, and you've got electricians, you've got hair and makeup, you've got costume, you've got people who work within the water tanks or who specialise in water and
Honey wagon emptiers, yeah, they're all
Yeah.
lovely guys. Yeah.
you know, it's kind of, there's a role for someone out there, and I think it's really important that we explore various roles apart from writer and director, because without, you know, an electrician, how is that light going to work on a film set or a TV programme? Without a costume designer, how are you going to convince the audience that this is a 1917 period piece? So, yeah. Fab. Yes, I also saw the recent Jurassic World car being made when I went to Pinewood last. That was pretty cool. I just snuck my head
You
in one
like
of the
stick your
stages.
head around
Yeah.
the little set bits, and there's just people in there like building a dinosaur or something.
Yeah, and they just look like builders, and it's great, and they've just got a real passion
You
for
pretend
it.
you're not actually looking because you get kicked out.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So, I don't know if you have an answer for this, but I'd like to see if there was a pivotal point in your career or journey that you knew that, okay, this is definitely what I want to do. This is what I want to pursue.
Anyone want to take
Well,
that?
So I don't know if I have a pivotal moment exactly, but I think it was just, I guess, sort of like when I realised people could work in the film industry, and then getting my first job in film was a big pivotal moment, because then before then it was just a fantasy of like applying for things and getting lots of rejections. So when I got the first yes, it was like, whoa, this is a thing. And yeah, I guess.
For me, it was that first day on, back then it was called Heart of Chaos, with Luke Radford, because it was, I came in as a runner, and I saw that no one was really taking charge of anything, no one was keeping track of like what shots we wanted. There was a sort of plan they seemed to add, but I all of a sudden just went, right, okay, I'm going to go and grab my laptop, and I walked up to the director and I went, right, what's the plan? And I wrote down the plan. And then he said at the end of that, like, right, you're the first AD now, I'm never doing a shoot without you by my side. And I think that was the pivotal moment where I was like, oh, this is a role, this is a thing. And AD is what I've been doing most of since then.
And that's assistant director, if you're unsure of what AD
First
means.
assistant director, you do all the shouting so that the director doesn't have to.
But in a really nice, polite
Really
way.
nice, gentle way.
But in an urgent, with urgency.
I have a clipboard made of heavy wood now, so that if anyone's running behind time, they speed up.
It's probably one of the most stressful jobs on set. Like,
Yeah,
you're literally the police,
definitely.
you're the planner, you're the everything. I don't know how you do it.
Louder than the director as well, most of the time. But
Yeah, it's not my forte.
yeah, I think also just on my first job, walking into the cutting room on the first day and seeing the amount of people in the cutting room doing different things and realising there's so many different roles, because I just thought there was an editor and then someone that ran around after them and did everything for them as well. But you've obviously got, you know, your trainee and then the second assistant, first assistant, and the first assistant like runs up to the editor and does all their bits for them if they're like running behind, or if they've got bits that they don't really want to do. And seeing that and being like, oh, I'm part of like this line of roles, I guess. It was kind of nice to feel like I had a responsibility, and that was because I just thought I was just going to be running around getting people's lunches, but I wasn't. So it's quite nice. That was a good pivotal moment for me, I think, realising that I was actually a part of something and not just someone making sandwiches. But yeah.
And also, when I came to Pinewood last, I tried to see you.
Oh yeah.
Because on the BFI Film Academy, one of the excursions that you do is you take a trip to Pinewood. It's not always happened, and I can't remember if all of you went.
I
Sorry,
didn't.
Millan.
I didn't.
But you have a tour of Pinewood Studios, and you meet professionals, and we met the head of Lucasfilm, Candice Jacobs.
Oh yeah.
And she's
Nice.
brilliant. I highly recommend you have a good Google. and I was texting Harriet like, "Are you
Please
here?
come see me.
Yeah,
And I was
and
like,
then-
I'm sorry, I've got so much to do.
But that was brilliant because actually it was brilliant because Harriet was busy and she was fulfilling a role and she was part of a team and part of a unit, and then part of that unit is like a bigger family of like post-production.
Yeah.
And I was just, yeah, it
That
would
was
have been
was
lovely
that-
to have seen
That was
you.
on
That was,
Bond, or was that?
yeah, that was Bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think I vividly remember it being like a lunch break or something. And I was like, right, this is my time. I can go see Ellen. And then someone went, oh, Harriet. And I was like, fuck's sake. So, yeah.
name.
Like, yeah. I was like, okay, never mind. But, yeah.
Oh.
Sad, but oh well.
And Alex, you know, we have very different roles in terms of not necessarily hands-on making films, but we are supporting talent. How did you know that this was an area that you wanted to pursue, and what kind of like, and was there a pivotal point where you were like, yeah, this is brilliant, I'm really happy with what I do?
I think I'm still working out what I want to do, but I know that it's got to be in film. Like, I tried to leave the industry once, and I just couldn't. Like, I literally just couldn't. I ended up taking a much worse paid job to stay in the industry. And I think for me, it's just so satisfying working with talented people and then coming into spaces like this and the lights going down and their film coming up on the screen and having that shared experience together of watching something that they've created, whether that's a short film or a feature film. And I also just love audiences. Like, these venues are just so important to like the sort of fundamental tissue of the film industry. And so watching people watch films is like so enjoyable. So I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know what that pivotal point will be, but I know that I can't work in pretty much any other field.
Yeah, I think once it hooks you,
Yeah.
that's
Once
it.
you're in, you're in, and you're
Once
not leaving, because
buckle
you'd be
up.
like, oh man, kind of want to go back. So, yeah.
Oh, fab. And I know we've spoken about BFI Film Academy quite extensively, but are there any other schemes or opportunities that, you know, you applied for, you wrote like supporting statements, you sent a CV? Is there anything?
There's ScreenSkills, I think. That's the only one I knew about. But
So I did short
No.
flicks,
Mhm.
which I think is dead now. They might be rebranding it, I'm not too sure. Creative England used to run it, and I was in the first year of it, where basically you can apply and pitch your film, basically, as a director or as a writer. You can pitch your film. So they got hundreds of applications. I was one of them, and I made a video application. A friend of mine had a Steadicam, and so we walked around Nottingham, and I pitched it. And it went down really well. I think it's still one of the most viewed videos on Creative England's
Yeah.
Facebook page.
It was the anniversary of that submission yesterday,
Yeah.
which I think is brilliant.
And so with that, they did a whole workshop with you where they took us all down to Birmingham, to Sky Arts in Birmingham, and they got a load of industry professionals to teach us how to pitch, basically, and how to develop a treatment, how to get your short film ready to be pitched. And then later on, you went back to Sky Arts I think that one was in London, and you pitched to them, and you did a proper pitch. Unfortunately, my film didn't get picked to be made. They picked 5 other fantastic films. But what that opened my eyes to a lot was that every other person on there, they picked 22 people, and every other person from there was from London and was already either they'd finished uni or film school already, or they'd already worked in productions. A load of them came from Paddington, weirdly. They'd all just seemed to work on Paddington. And I was there. I hadn't really worked on anything. I hadn't been to uni. I went to uni after that, even. And I felt a bit like a fish out of water. But you get that a lot. And you've just kind of got to get used to it and know that you're not the fish out of water. We're all a load of weird fish out of water somehow. They've just emptied a bucket of fish into Birmingham, and we're all here.
Gas
Yeah.
water right now.
Yeah.
Was the question like, what schemes have you done?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I guess for me, I think I've taken part in almost every BFI sort of scheme. But I think, yeah.
Yeah, you have.
I'm always asking Ella for feedback, so she knows all of it. But yeah, I think for me the one I'm most proud of is the BFI Craft Skills Residential, which I specialise in directing there, and Harriet also did that as an editor. And it was just because it was such a great scheme in terms of it mixes you with everyone from around the UK, Ireland, Scotland, and they're kind of very selective, and there's like I think there's about 60 students that go.
Yeah, 60 selected from the entire UK.
And then about 6 directors. So, but actually I should tell you the full story, that I got rejected from the first round of applications. And it wasn't until I followed up with an email saying that, I'm really disheartened about this, and I wondered if you have any advice for the next time. And actually, that follow-up email did a lot of favours for me, because it kind of showed my enthusiasm, I guess. And one of the people that read the application said that the follow-up email showed your enthusiasm. So if you ever do get rejected, don't be disheartened. Just, go write a very nice, polite email asking for feedback if you can. And then I guess the Future Skills one also stands out to me a lot, because, it was in 2018, and it led to working on Star Wars. So that was just a massive mind blow at the time, because I kind of felt that I would be working my way up to a big budget feature like that. I thought it'd be like a small TV series, and I was applying for a lot of the smaller things, but I was actually getting a lot of no's from those kind of things. So it was a bit of a mind blowing moment when that happened. But yeah.
Future Skills was great as well, because you had so many people your age working on that film as well. So we had a whole traineeship scheme going on, and we'd all meet up at the weekends or after, go for drinks. And
everyone used to joke around and say we were called Trainee Island, which
Oh
was
my
like a joke on
God,
Love
yeah.
Island, and we lived on Trainee
Who's
Island.
seeing
I guess.
who this week? And
There was so much gossip, wasn't there, about our little Trainee Island?
Yeah, our little Trainee Island. We all wore little badges on the last day. We all got bought them, but it was great because everyone on the set knew who the trainees were, and it was just a whole, I don't know, little mini system going on. It was great, and we'd obviously walk past each other and I'd see Ravi loading stuff out of a truck and be like, "Oh, all right, mate, do you want a coffee or something?" And it was just, and then we'd go meet up at other people's houses after work if we weren't knackered. But
it was a lot more than just a film scheme. It was a whole kind of experience as a whole. For me, I didn't really go uni, so I was living in a house with 5 guys my age, and we were all kind of
messing around.
I guess uni, flat experience,
But
but
you're
not really.
getting
The good part
paid.
of uni.
Yeah. Other than you have to wake up at 7 a.m. every day, and you have to be on set, and then leave at
You got up at 7?
Sorry, wake up at 5 a.m., be there for 7 a.m., and get home at 8 or something like that. But it was still fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
ScreenSkills have put this one in your notebooks. They have their trainee finder scheme, which is very similar, and I think applications open for that in August.
Yeah, it's
this
August.
year?
Yeah, and also you can apply for a ScreenSkills mentorship scheme as well. And also with ScreenSkills, they offer bursaries. So Lauren Parker, who was supposed to be part of this evening, but unfortunately has COVID, she couldn't be here. She used the ScreenSkills bursary to buy, a printer, and
She's got Movie Magic.
And Movie
as well.
Magic, yeah. So you do have to be 18 for ScreenSkills, unfortunately, but they do offer an array of free training. So the basic awareness of COVID training. They deliver mental health first aid training. They do writers labs. They do kind of post-production workshops and labs, and these can be either, the fees can be waived or you can pay them, or they're totally free, depending on the intensity of them and kind of the context of them. So
I would also add, sign up for every single newsletter that you can. There's so many out there, and they're constantly, every month or every week, they're posting loads of opportunities. There's Film London, Film Hub Midlands. Alex probably knows a lot more than me about these letters.
Well, this month, my colleague Natasha said to me today, I don't think I can send the newsletter out. There's too much in it. And then when people come back and they're like, there's no opportunities in the Midlands for filmmakers, they're like, we've literally got too much content for this newsletter. So, I think that's a really great shout, is finding organisations like Film Hub Midlands, ScreenSkills. Each of the regions in England has got their own film hub, so it doesn't matter where you're living. You can sign up for the newsletter, or you can sign up for all of them and find out what everyone's doing. So yeah, they tend to be a great way to pick and choose what it is that you want to take up.
Also, Facebook pages are really underrated. Like,
Yeah.
they are where I've found a lot of my work,
Yeah.
and they always, I mean, there's just one saying, film and TV jobs, film and TV opportunities,
Yeah.
film and like, just join all of them.
Like
And you
runners
get
and-
so many posts on your Facebook. I mean, I don't even use Facebook anymore, and I just go on there to look for work. So if you just go on, and it literally, your feed will just be full of training opportunity here, training opportunity there, and it can be, you know, there's ones in like Birmingham, there's ones in Nottingham, there's not just ones in London and Manchester and all over the place. Like, there's local ones too, but it's, no one really seems to mention Facebook, and it's
No.
like, it's
Yeah.
I think
got a lot of opportunities.
What a lot
on
of
it.
those groups do as well is you can just post your CV in there, and people
Yeah.
will give you advice. on
Hi,
how to
I really
improve
want a
it.
job. Put your CV in, and then you got 5 comments like, message me, and it's
Yeah.
straight in there basically.
Yeah, Facebook isn't just for your aunts and mums. It is, yeah, you know,
Aunts, mums, and jobs.
yeah, you know, with our Film Academy and with my current Film Academy cohort, it was really hard to get them to sign up to Broadway's exclusive Film Academy alumni Facebook group. But I just asked them to create an account, and then I'd see their names every time I post an opportunity that is exclusively for them, and it's really rewarding because sometimes I'm in bed, I don't have time to email them at 11 o'clock at night, but if I see something, then I'll share it on there, you know, straight from Instagram or straight from, you know, Film Hub, you know, BFI Network and Film Hub Midlands, and especially from Alex, because Alex shares an array of amazing opportunities locally and nationally as well. So, you know, we're all scrolling in bed at night, just add Facebook to that,
Yeah.
but for professional purposes, obviously.
Yeah. TikTok.
Alex, because, you know, there are too many opportunities, it seems, within the Midlands, or locally and nationally, are you able to just share a few that are coming up that may be worth the audience knowing?
Yeah, so at the moment we are open for applications to something called our Creative Producer Lab, which Ella is a graduate from, and it's a really intensive sort of 2-month scheme where you work with Barrington Robinson, who he recently produced
The Responder, which was on
Responder.
BBC.
And Holly Carrington, who is a really amazing producer and writer. So, Ella, can you like vouch for the lab?
Oh, it was the best thing that I have done, apart from being here. Through the work that I have done at Broadway and through overseeing now 31 short films at Broadway through the Film Academy, it was really bizarre and comforting to know that I had a lot of experience in producing, but I hadn't gone down. I hadn't participated in a Film Academy course. I hadn't gone to university. I'd all done it through my time here at Broadway. And you learn about, you know, all the different areas, how to find your tribe and what a tribe means. So it's kind of, and how to have a great director and producer relationship, how to just ask questions if you're not too sure about anything, and feeling confident within yourself, and how to be professional but personal and show your character. And it is one of the best things I've ever done, and I can't say that enough. And I met, and actually there were 4 other Nottingham-based aspiring producers on that course. On the course, and I knew 3 of them, and one was actually one of my Film Academy participants from the past, and that was really, really rewarding to see that actually you can have a career from it, and you can build aspirations.
One of the great things about it as well is that Barrington and Holly are working on bigger and bigger and bigger projects, and they have this huge alumni of people that they've put through Creative Producer Lab. And I was on the phone to Barrington the other day, and he was like, "What's Ella doing? I've got this new project, and I want Ella on it." So they keep in touch. They are constantly advocating for the people who've been on the course, and they want to see people progress. And Holly and Barrington are actually looking at different ways that they can celebrate those producers as well. We have a lot of writers, we have a lot of directors, and we need those people to tell stories, but we are very short on producers, and producers are so vital to the film industry to keep things safe, to keep them financially viable, to keep things legal, but also to have their creative input, and it so often gets forgotten. So yeah, that's what we've got open at the moment.
Yeah. And you don't just learn, you learn about all the different types of producers. That's like, there's a creative producer, there's a talent producer, there are just line producers, which basically sorts out all the paperwork, all the finances, all the contracts. Whereas I see myself more as a creative and talent producer, where I have an array of talented filmmakers, you know, those who have a profession within film and the creative industries, where if they come to me, where if, you know, people come to me and they say, oh, I need a trainee for this, then I can put them forward. So that's what I had, as well as, you know, Millan working on Without Sin as the COVID floor supervisor.
Yep.
Rachel Clark, who is a cinematographer who came to Nottingham for university, she contacted me and said, I want a camera trainee, can you send out this opportunity? And an alumni from, I think Sophie was from the second. Did you meet Sophie Chester-Nash?
Yeah, got to know Sophie
Yeah.
very well. Yeah.
So Sophie did the Film Academy. So you know, it's all about who you know, and if I'm able to put forward, you know, brilliant, hard-working individuals to these opportunities, then I will. Sorry, I went off a bit of a tangent there, didn't I?
Basically, Ella is going to fight for everyone in this room. Like, you know, there is no better ambassador for you in your career than Ella.
I get hundreds and hundreds of emails a month from Ella, like just constant spam, and I love it.
Thank you.
It's like, I need it. So
The job I'm currently first ADing, you can track how I got onto that job all the way back to an email you sent me back in like 2018.
Really?
Because I ended up on a job with Michael Jobling through just an email you sent out where they were looking for a runner, and now I'm first ADing his first funded short film to the BFI.
And we're funding that film, so...
Yeah.
It's gonna be good.
Yes, as well as the Producers Lab, BFI Network also had a scheme where a producer and a director could apply for short film funding, which Millan is going to be part of, and it's filming 3 days in
3 days.
in 3 weeks.
4 weeks. 3 weeks
Yeah.
from now.
With a deal actor.
Colic and all that. Yeah, a deal actor from Four Lions. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Very exciting. And I want to know from all of you, what has pleasantly surprised you from your journey, whether that's, you know, learning something that's magical, or kind of how welcoming and supportive people are, or your abilities as professionals.
what surprised me, I mean, it sounds a bit daft, but I thought that in the cutting rooms there was going to be a lot of men, which I don't care about, but it's like I thought I was just going to be like one of the only women in the cutting room, and it was nice on Star Wars and on Bond. There was women high up in the cutting room. I mean, the editor of Star Wars was female, and the first assistant was female, and it was like nice to be like, oh, I can get there too, because often I see a load of like male editors, and you know, a lot of jobs have been turned down for guys who basically have the same experience as me, and it just I wonder, like, oh, could I actually get to the top? And it was nice to see that I could get there, and it was just refreshing. Oh my god, that is a huge spider.
Oh no, sorry, there's a massive
boy,
spider.
yeah.
Okay, sorry. Millan.
I don't remember what I was going to say. Yeah, it's on Bodies for Netflix the other week. The entire AD department is women. It's really surprising.
It's just funny that is surprising. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was more gasping at it being Bodies. Thank you for
Oh,
letting that slip.
I was just the fact it's
The
surprising.
catering was great.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
I was going to say something else. It'll come back to me.
Yeah, I guess what pleasantly surprised me about the film industry is that Hollywood is like big productions are a lot more closer to you than you think, and also when you get on those productions, I guess my kind of weird sort of visualization of it before I had been on them was that these people are completely alien and they work in a very different method, but actually it's not so different from the short independent films. It's just they've got a huger budget and more studio sort of setups, but it's very relatable. So when I got on those kind of big budget sets, it felt kind of like home, even though it was as big as it was, I guess. Yeah.
Sorry, the spider is absolutely huge. I think, very similar. The industry is really, really changing. And, sorry.
He's gone home, it's fine.
Okay.
The industry is genuinely changing, and I see it in meetings that I get to be a part of now that I never thought I'd be a part of. But people who are decision makers within BFI are genuinely investing in support for new talent and people making feature films in a way that I haven't seen before. So the mental health support, going back to intimacy coordinators, making sure people are actually safe on set. This all still feels quite new, and I just love that I work with an organisation who's so invested in making that a priority.
Thank you. And also it's really important that productions and companies and organisations are taking mental health seriously, which with the long hour, with the traditional extraordinary long hours and pressures and lack of sleep and everything else that is just in such a high intense environment, that there are roles such as mental first aid trainer and their support, like the film and TV charity, which Alex, you know more about so than me.
No, I was just going to say, one thing in our industry is that 82% of us will experience ill mental health at some point due to all the factors that Ella mentioned, and that's against, I think it's 60% of the general population. So the fact that these things are being put in place now, and things like the film and TV charity, which is so vital, it does feel like we're making steps. And also we're talking about things like capped shooting days, so you can only shoot for so many hours. We already have things like working time directives, so it's meant to keep people safer. But 10 years ago, like, oh, can you stay for hour 14? Can you stay for hour 15? You'd be like, yeah. That kind of thing. The more professional the project, the less that kind of thing happens.
And talking about being professional, do you, for these young people in the audience, have any tips and tricks of how to have a professional but personal brand, whether that's in person or online, when you're meeting people, applying?
Do you want to take that one?
Go on, Ravi.
I think just generally it's a very people-orientated business, and a lot of the jobs you get will be off just your character, and just be polite and kind to everyone you meet. And I guess that goes for every day as well, but especially in the film industry, because you never know what interaction could lead to your next job. And then I guess online, online I'm not too as well versed in, but I guess just keeping your, you could have a separate work account which showcases your film work and that you're looking to be a camera assistant and X, Y, and Z. But I guess in person, it's all about just meeting people, being very polite, and being very respectful of the fact that they might be very busy at the time, or X, Y, and Z. So yeah.
I would say don't bombard people with stuff, but also,
Reach out.
Yeah, reach out to people, but don't be annoying, because that's the worst, and then they probably don't want to talk to you. But
if you do have a chance to talk to them,
Yeah.
tell them what you're ultimately interested
Yeah.
in, where you want to end up. Because Without Sin, we were in Shrewsbury for a bit, and we ended up the COVID team was just drinking in the hotel bar, and then the director and the first AD were over on another table. And we were like, should we go and sit with them? There are enemies on set, but they might be friendly now. And so we got chatting to them and had a few drinks with them, and I told the first AD, I want your job. And she said, have it. No, but on a later job, she had to turn down this other job, and she passed it on to me, because she remembered that I'm ultimately interested in that role. So yeah, never forget your aspirations, where you want to end up. Let people know about that.
Have confidence in it as well.
Yeah,
just be like, I want
you
to do this, and then someone might just turn around and surprise you and be like, okay, take this.
Genuinely, the first AD was having a rough night one night. She was like, do you want to take over? I'm not qualified for this. And can you wear your mask, please?
Alex, do you have any tips or tricks, you know, for, because I assume that the audience here would like to apply for places or on courses or schemes and what have you. Are there any, have you got any advice for them?
I do think being kind to everyone is like the best advice you can give, because you know, networking events can be really loud and really busy, and I'm quite introverted. Well, I'm very introverted, so I'll be stood in the corner, and you know, the kind people that come over and go like, you're standing on your own, do you want to come and chat with us? It's like, yes, you know, thank you, that's really nice of you, and made really good connections that way as well. But I also think it's really important with social media that we're all aware that, you know, we grow up and our opinions change, but if we've posted something and then 10 years later we have a completely different view on something because we have grown and we've learned, is to make sure that you are aware of what you've said, and you know, everything is through a lens of today rather than who you were when you typed it. So just be very cautious about that, and you know that you're on a long journey with that. And people do look at social media. So, you know, if we see sexism or homophobia or transphobia and all of these things, that's a big red flag to a financier.
I mean, my first job, they said on my first day, do you not have Facebook? And I was like, well, no, I do. And they said, oh, we searched Facebook for you for ages because they'd like to look through your feed. But my last name is on Facebook was my middle name, so people can't find me. But yeah, they do check your socials, and I mean, they didn't find mine, but
Yeah.
But yeah, just it is something that is checked. So just have like a good online presence, and also have a social media account maybe for the stuff that you want to produce and make, and dedicate that to that, and try and get a following on there, and then have a personal one as well. Yeah.
And I would say follow, especially with Instagram, like follow the people that you like and the films that you like and the organisations that you want to work with and potentially get funding from, and you know, schemes that you want to apply for, because everyone knows each other. So through BFI Network and through the mentors, through the mentoring scheme that Alex delivers, their mentors follow me and I follow them. I've never met them, but who's to say that I won't, you know, soon. And it's all about building relationships. And also, I've kept my Instagram private because I think that's the best thing to do. I only let people who I want to work with or who I know personally see that, because it's my, you know, it's my life, it's my professional, it's a combination of what I do and what I love, and also who I am as a person. Yeah, all the time. Yeah, and you know, if you have a LinkedIn profile, just make sure that you have a really good photo that shows your smiley face and shows off your character, and just it shows your personality and your traits, and you know, keep it current and post things and follow other, you know, build those connections and contacts.
And I'm really sorry, I forgot to say earlier on, thanks to Ella, at BFI Network, we've been able to set up a mentoring scheme which all of you would be eligible for. and you get 2 60-minute mentoring sessions with an industry professional. So we've got feature film producers, directors, writers, people who work in TV, work in animation. So we really try and cater to what it is that you really want to get out of that mentoring. It's completely free, and it takes about 5 minutes to put the application form in, but that is still open at the moment. So if you sign up to the BFI Network Midlands newsletter, you'll be able to see that opportunity.
That is something I didn't know about that, and I'm going to apply it.
Yeah, I might
That's
have.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you. And I was wondering if you four could advise the audience of what having a chat means, and I don't mean like in a Love Island sense around the fire pit. I mean like, you know, in a work professional sense, and kind of how would you prepare for the disguised interview, which is essentially what having a chat is.
Yeah, basically someone's saying, can we have a chat, like,
Is it an informal
at the
interview?
weekend, or it will generally take place in like a coffee shop or on a Zoom or something like that, and it's usually just a very casual chat with someone, but they're basically trying to figure out whether they want to offer you a job or not. So just be really nice and passionate, and sort of they're trying to figure out whether you gel well with their team, and whether because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. So it's just got to be it's a very casual interview basically. So if it is in a coffee shop, you don't need to turn up in like a suit or anything like that. It's literally just turn up in your casual clothes and just be like chatty, and, you know, maybe ask them some questions and just sort of make it out as if, you know, you want to be like meeting with them in a way, sort of.
Invested.
Yeah, and that you want the job as well, because that's sort of what it's for. So
In the back of your head, you should almost always have an elevator pitch for yourself ready, because those chats always open up with, so tell me a bit about yourself. And if you're anything like me, you never know what to say to that. So I've got this like 4-line spiel of my entire life that I can sum up in like 5 seconds.
Go for it.
No. So it started on a winter's eve.
I feel like you guys answered the question very perfectly. The only thing I'd add to that is, I think when you're having, I guess, a chat, like what Harriet said, they're kind of getting the gist if you're going to glue with the team, because obviously you spend a lot of time on set. And so I think there's a natural urge to be like, I need to show off my knowledge. I need to show that I've done this in the camera department and I've done that, which is really good. But I think what comes first is just showing that you're a normal human being that likes to, you know, can get on with them. And that comes first, and then it's kind of like, yeah, I also have a lot of experience as well. But I think sometimes, I fell into the mistake of, in my first applications, when I wasn't really getting, I was getting a lot of rejections, was when I was kind of just overplaying the experience I had. And really I found out with these kind of film schemes, what they're kind of looking for is somebody that's wanting the experience, rather than, I have loads of experience, I'm going to add value. That is important, but more so, you know, I really want to learn, and I also have loads of experience which could help me settle in with the group.
Oh boy, talk about overselling yourself. I used to genuinely put in applications that I am the Swiss Army knife of filmmaking. So embarrassing.
Yeah, because everyone's already said, but because you are going to be spending so much time with those people, if you've not been authentic during that chat, you're going to have to be that person. For a really long time, and that can be really harmful. I don't know, I keep talking about mental health, but it's so important. That can be really harmful to your mental health, having to be someone you're not. And there is no like one shot in this industry. I think people think there's this silver bullet, this one job comes along and that opens up all the doors to all the other doors, and that doesn't happen. So if you're getting a bad vibe, if you're getting the ick from someone during one of these like informal chats, then maybe that's not the right job. But there will be another informal chat.
Yeah, also like if it's a way for you to judge them, as well as like, do I want to work with these people? Do they seem like someone that I could spend time with? I mean, especially in like a cutting room. I know I keep bringing up cutting rooms, but you're spending a lot of time in an enclosed space, like a lot of time. You'd need
In the
to
dark.
get in the dark, and it's very warm, and
The
you know,
longest
tensions
days.
rise, and you know, you need to know that you can get on with those people, because it's a very stressful environment. I'm sure it's the same on set, but like you need to know that in a stressful time, you think you could probably get on with these people, because if they annoy you, then it's just going to make the work process like 10 times harder. So I think, yeah, it's for you to read them as much as them to read you, I guess. And
Also, I just want to add, I think asking questions is always a good thing, as long as they're genuine questions. And I think I made a mistake in one of my Skype interviews years back when it was for the Lucasfilm job, and I said, I was like, what are the working hours? Which is a really dumb question in retrospect, because everyone knows that working hours in film is just like whatever it is on the day. And I only asked that question because I was kind of like, oh, I haven't got a question, I need to ask something. And then I learnt that lesson very well for my next interview. Was like, okay, let me ask a question about, I think a good question is always to ask, what do you look for in the ideal trainee, or you know, what do you look for in the ideal candidate? And then they'll share you loads of advice, and they'll be really grateful that you asked that question.
Definitely. And I think, do your research as well of the individual who you're having a chat with, maybe who they've worked for, what they've done, who they work for, who they have worked for, who
name drop. If you know someone
Yes.
that knows them, say, oh yeah, Ella was telling me about this position, and they go, oh yes, I love Ella. And then if they know that you get on with Ella, then it's also like, oh, they must be a nice person. Definitely name drop. Thank you.
But I tell you what not to do is to go through someone's Instagram feed or Twitter feed or whatever and find pictures of their cat, turn up at the chat/meeting and ask them how their cat is.
Yeah, no.
Like, that happened to me, and I was like, oh my God. Like, so, you know, there's professional boundaries, but
boundaries.
absolutely what
That was
Harriet
me
said.
who asked about the cat.
Did you get the job?
I did. No.
But yeah, exactly what Harriet said. You know, just make sure that that's, you know, if you gel with one person, you're probably going to gel with the 13.
People in common.
Yeah. And Alex, I think this one's mainly for you, but what, in terms of the people who you work with or the short films that you have accepted funding for, or the potential mentees who would love to partake in the mentoring scheme, what do you look for in those applications and supporting statements from, you know, these filmmakers and aspiring creatives?
Oh my God, that's a really big
Sorry.
question. In terms of the film finance that we award, it's story first. There has to be a story. The story has to be greater than the concept alone. And then we look at the application form. We make sure that people are thinking about the BFI diversity standards, safety on set, making sure that it's actually a feasible project to make within the budget and the time constraints. But I suppose in general, with sort of supporting statements about who they are, we don't expect people to come into the fund and know everything about filmmaking, but showing that you've done some research goes a really, really long way. So in the mentoring application, there's a section that says, please can you outline what it is that you want to talk about? Because we want to make sure that this is the best use of the time for you. And that's genuinely it. We want to make sure you get the most out of the time. So if you put something really vague down, like I want to talk about film funding, okay, but what specifically about film funding? What is it that is confusing or you don't feel has been clearly explained? And note that down specifically, and then we can get right into it, because we've got such limited time. We just want to make sure that you are gaining the knowledge and we're not just sat there sort of telling you stuff you already know.
Yeah, on doing the research, recently I did a first AD job, and the second AD was very new to this, and I was sort of expecting this to be a pretty bog standard job, just get the job done. But he came up to me, bless him, and he was like, so I looked on ScreenSkills on the second AD page, and it said I should be doing this, and I'm like, oh, I will sort you out, mate. You very clearly care about doing the right job. And so then I kicked into gear, and we basically did a full-on we did the shoot as if it was going to be like a feature film or a high-end TV production, so that he could see what he would be doing on a bigger job. It wasn't necessary, but it was a chance to actually show him, this is what we normally do.
Oh, you're a good egg, Millan. And I think when I accept applications for the BFI Film Academy, with these three and with the two audience members in Billy and Josh, who have done my recent BFI Film Academy, it's personality, it's aspirations, it's drive, it's collaborative skills, it's wanting to build networks and try new scary things. You know, it's about selling yourself as well, but not pretending to be someone else. It's about selling who you are as a person, because, you know, we're all very different characters, but we all love to make films or be part of films, and it's about growing our connections. So yeah.
I think my entire application was just, I really like films, I really want to make films.
Yeah.
I haven't made any films, but I really want to make some. And it's just for like 3 paragraphs. So yeah, just put your passion in there first. And yeah, your personality, I guess.
I nearly overcooked my Film Academy application, didn't
You
I?
were almost too good, Millan.
Yeah.
You made a
So don't be too good. Pro tip.
But actually, with yours, Millan, was you had made a lot of content, but on your own.
Yeah.
And you really fought for the case of, I want to meet new people. I want to build onto my connections and my networks. And that was the selling point for me, because you were brilliant.
I've just remembered what I was going to say in an earlier question. What pleasantly surprised me about this industry is that it is who you know. And that's unfortunate in some senses. But it's not about who you already know, it's about who you get to know. It is so easy to get to know the people in the right spots very quickly as well. You can meet someone just very briefly on set and they'll remember you, and then it just ends up snowballing. And it can feel sometimes, especially at the beginning of this year, I was like, this is it, I'm never working again, no work is coming my way. But then gradually it starts to come back to you. So, yeah.
Thank you. And I know that we have all felt this, and I assume that the audience will feel this at some point, but how do you acknowledge imposter syndrome and just keep moving forward?
I hope one of you's figured it out, because I haven't.
I've got imposter syndrome right now.
Yeah.
What the hell am I doing? No. I think it's something that you're always probably going to encounter at every sort of like ladder climb of your career, each step of the way. I had it in BFI when I was directing the short film. I had it in NFTS when I was directing a short film. I had it on Star Wars. I had it on Aquaman. I had it on basically every role, even assistant to director. I really felt like that's really ahead of what I should be doing. And then I don't necessarily believe in the phrase "fake it till you make it," because it kind of implies that you're not really being yourself. But I do think you should believe it till you make it in a way that, like, you got to have that self-belief that, even though I might not be as experienced in this role, I'm going to make the full use of my time to try and gain that experience and then take from it as well. So yeah, something along the lines of that, I guess.
Also, I think what helped me get over it was it's okay to ask questions, like in the job. I was in this cutting room with people who've been working for a really long time in the industry, and I was the youngest as well by quite a significant age. I was 18, and the person who was next youngest was 28, and so I felt like I was quite inferior to all of them, and I was constantly asking questions. And as long as you learn from like the questions you're asking and don't constantly ask the same questions, you're fine. Like, and then you get to learn on the job, and you don't feel as though you don't know as much anymore. Like, it just helps to ask questions, and more often than not, people are happy to talk about themselves. So if you just ask them how they do their job and how you can help them do their job, they'll happily sit down and talk to you about it, because people like talking about themselves. So
People can tell when you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I find I was on solo and I couldn't find the bin, and I thought it was embarrassing to ask where was the bin on unit base. And this guy came up to me. He knew I was walking around with a bin bag for like half an hour. He went, "It's over there, mate." If I just asked, I could have cracked on.
yeah, definitely ask questions, and that really sort of helped me get over that. And Also, it helps you make friends when you ask questions as well. I mean, when I was working on Star Wars, like you'd have the red and green lights on the doors, which sort of lets you know whether you can go in on set, because when the red light comes on, they're filming, don't go in. If you go in, you might lose your job, sort of thing. But I didn't know that because I hadn't worked on set, and I was really scared because I needed to go and drop off like a coffee for someone on set, and I was about to go in, and then I was like, oh, maybe I should ask, but I was like, oh, everyone here knows what they're doing. And it was actually the director's assistant who was just walking past, and I didn't know. And I went, "Oh, hi. What does this mean?" And he was like, "Oh, it just means don't go in, like right now. Like don't go." I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks." And then I just stood there waiting. But that made me feel a little less stupid, because then, if I'd have actually gone in, everyone would have been looking at me going through the door while they were filming a scene, and it would have just been a bit more embarrassing. So, yeah, that was.
Yeah, I think
asking questions
another
is
thing
good.
to, like, I guess, overcome imposter syndrome is just to remember that they picked you for a reason. Like, they haven't just randomly, like, picked your name out of a hat. Like, they've chosen you because they think that you're right for the role. So just, yeah, remember that.
I've still got imposter syndrome. I think in some ways probably I always will. I've been quite proactive about how to deal with that. So I've put myself through some professional coaching. So I work with the same person. It's a bit like a professional therapist, I would say. And they have just given me so much space in my head to kind of take myself out of it and sort of look at it a little bit more objectively. But I also think everyone who I would like and everyone who I would be friends with probably has imposter syndrome. You know, if you're so confident you don't think that you are going to ever do anything wrong or you're going to be perfect all the time, then I'm basically scared of you. So I think there's no one who I work with at BFI who doesn't have imposter syndrome in some way, shape or form. And, you know, our industry is evolving all the time. Things change massively. We've got Createch, VR, etc. Becoming more prevalent. And so people are having to kind of make things up as they go along. So if you're an imposter one day, you know, the next day you could know absolutely everything about a new technology, for example. So, yeah, I think it's always going to be there, but it's far more manageable. And it's far more manageable knowing that pretty much everybody else has got it as well.
Definitely. And also, if someone writes an email and they compliment you and they say really nice words, save that. That's what I've started to do. Like, keep the positive feedback, and just if you're ever having a day where you don't believe in your abilities and, you know, in what you do, just look back on those. That's what I've started to do.
Screenshot them and send them to my mates.
Oh yeah, like, you know, the messages from these, like, from all
God,
four
what
of
they
you,
said.
like, I've screenshotted it, and they're like, "Thank you so much, Ella," and I'm like, well, this is my purpose. This is my purpose in life and my career. Especially Alex. Alex sends the nicest messages ever.
It's such a privilege to be able to tell the truth to someone and tell them how great they are. And I think it's, you know, it's one of the nicest things to be able to do. If, like, anyone in this room ever emailed me and told me I did a good job, I'd be elated. I think people should do that more. And I think, you know, this new generation, like yourselves going into the film industry, I think we are able to communicate a lot better than maybe some of the previous generations in film. And giving people positive feedback is really important.
Also, another thing that I did when I stepped up to assistant to director, which was like a huge step for me because I come from more of a technical, I guess, background. Use your contacts, like call the assistant to directors that you know and just ask them, like, just be like, I'm freaking out, what do I do? I've got this job starting in a week, what tips can you give me? And I was lucky to call the assistant to director on Star Wars, and they gave me like all the answers that I never even realized was like a thing that was needed. Like make notes after every conversation, triple check everything. If you booked a taxi, triple check that it's going to come on time. Gems like that, which I wouldn't have known if I had just been like, oh, I guess I'll just take on the job and see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. And also, so going back to, like, if you're applying for a place on a scheme or a course and what have you, you know, or a traineeship or a placement, check check your application, check it again, check it a third time, send it on to someone who you trust and who may be more academic, or like a tutor or a family friend or a parent, and get them to check it over. That's what I wanted to come back and say.
Yeah, having a little bit of space between when you write an application and you submit it, because your draft, sometimes I'll come back to a draft, tweet or something, I'll be like, oh my god, I was going to say that, but I think as well with sharing an application and going through that application process, is a lot of the time you'll see the question, why are you the right person to make this film? And some people give you a lot of very, very personal information. And I think it's really important that funders make it clear that we are not asking people to go through their own personal trauma to justify why they are the right person to make this film. So if you want to give that information, that's your choice. But any kind of funding application that you're going through where you feel like you're having to dig deep into very personal history or things that you don't want to talk about, that's not what funders and financiers should be asking you to do.
No, I agree. And penultimately, I want to know what your next steps are, if you have any, or aspirations.
So I've been working in London for about 2 years, maybe 3, give or take, with COVID. And I kind of want to give TV a try because film was mostly my area in London. So I'm planning to move to Manchester with my boyfriend and just sort of try TV there because I've got Media City, BBC, ITV, Channel 4. Just see how that goes, I guess. Yeah.
Well, right now I've got this film with Michael. That's my priority right now. Still looking for that next big job. You always find yourself like in the middle of bits, but considering a move up north, to be honest, Glasgow in particular.
And not everything's in London.
No.
Everything's trying to get out of London in many ways. I know Channel 4 just moved to Leeds. But yeah, Warner Brothers have massive productions up in Glasgow, so I'm considering that. But for now, focusing on the job I've actually got going.
Yeah, I guess for me, working in the industry for a few years, I've really enjoyed the technical roles and like the assistant roles, which has been really great. I've learnt tons, which I couldn't have learnt doing my own stuff. But I've realised for me, like I don't really get the creative joy unless I'm making my own short films as well. So I've got my heart set on writing and directing short films and keeping that growing and hopefully expanding into feature films and TV one day. But also, of course, keeping like the doors open to the industry and possibly taking on the odd few jobs as well.
I really don't know. Because I work in sort of financing, and we are generally called gatekeepers. I did see someone call it a gate opener, which is a nicer way of terming it, but I personally don't believe that people in gatekeeping or financing positions should stay in that role for long periods of time. And we're also coming to the start of the new BFI strategy in April 2023, which is going to mean a whole host of new exciting opportunities. So it's really a period of flux at the moment. I really want to stay in the Midlands if I possibly can, and in film obviously, but in terms of the role that I next go into, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're not escaping the Midlands because it's bad here or anything. I think, well, I just fancy a bit of a change. I don't know if that's the same with you, Harriet.
Yeah, I tried London. I don't really like it. It's just there's a lot going on, but I've tried here, I've tried London. Just want to give Manchester a try, and then maybe Glasgow or wherever. I mean, there's TV in Bristol. There's TV everywhere, so you don't have to.
Sheffield's got quite a bit going on.
Yeah,
right now.
Birmingham as well has some stuff going on, so it's not just.
Well, that's where they filmed Mission Impossible, didn't they?
I couldn't
Oh,
tell you.
yeah.
yeah, they filmed. That's where they did.
But yeah, like there's stuff here as like much as anywhere else. So I just wanted
Wales,
to try.
over in Cardiff.
Yeah, Cardiff has a lot of
Netflix
TV
stuff
and
over there.
Netflix stuff. Yeah, everywhere, not just London, which
Mm.
is what I thought. Like when I was starting out, I thought everything was in London, and I was like preparing myself, and then I moved there when I was 18, and it's very jarring to like just go from, cause I didn't go to uni, just like living on your own in London, working on like a film, and I think I wish I'd known there was other options as well, because as much as I loved that experience, maybe branching a little closer to home first and trying it out wouldn't have been so daunting. But yeah, there's stuff everywhere. It's not just in the south, but
Yeah. Well, you took the leap. Well, you felt the fear and you did it anyway, didn't you?
yeah, I did it anyway.
We went
But
to London when you were 18.
yeah, I was 17 actually.
17.
Screw that.
And finally, I just want to ask, kind of, what are the essential and accessible ways for aspiring or emerging talent to get their foot in the door that you think? So like we've spoken about, like newsletters and Instagram, following the people that you know or would like to work with.
Whenever I do these things, I always end with the same statement, basically, of ignore what we said, in a way. Because I've done maybe hundreds of this sort of thing where I've sat in your position, watched these Q&As of people who are massively successful, and they tell all these stories about how they did it. And usually I bring props. I've got like 4 notebooks filled with notes. And I was looking at it not too long ago, and I realised, what did I do with those notes? I forged my own path. I did my own thing. I basically ignored it. Do what is right in the moment for you. I never would have thought that this year I would have essentially restarted my film career because of COVID. COVID very nearly ended my career, and now it has, through Without Sin, essentially rebooted it. I never wrote that down in any of my notebooks. So do what is right for you in that moment.
And take as many opportunities as you get, and try and find as many opportunities as you can. Reach out to people, bug people, get Ella's information. Like, just take every opportunity that you can, and just, yeah, that's my advice really. That's what I did. It's just, I reached out to people and I was like, hi, have you got anything? And I joined as many groups as I could, and I did as many, workshops and things as I could, just learning and figuring out what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. But yeah, that's what I'd advise.
Yeah, I really love what they both just said, and Millan saying that, you don't really, you can always look back in retrospect and piece together someone's career and be like, oh, in 2018 they did this, and then that led to this. But in reality, that it's all just dependent on the person. One thing I'd like to push forward is to be creative with your approach. So I guess there are lots of schemes that we've just been like banging on about, loads of schemes, which is great. But there's also, you can also forge your own way. Like, say for example, you don't have any contacts in the industry and you want to be a camera trainee, for example. Like, you can go to a BSc event in London, which is pretty accessible, and there are tons of camera assistants there. It's not always that you have to meet the DP. Camera assistants are mainly the guys that will be hiring for the camera department. And likewise, I'm sure there's some kind of, thing for sound event people, I don't really know. But yeah, just be creative and, just think, what is the extra steps that you can do rather than just applying for the schemes? What can you go and do yourself that's in your control? Yeah.
Also, like, use your friends. Like, really take advantage of your friends and sort of say, do you want to make this with me, or do you want to make this with me? And like, try and find people who have the same passions as you, I guess, and use it. I mean, I remember going to prep with Ravi, and he was like, I have this really good script idea and I want to develop it. He's made the film now, and it's like really cool. So, you just need to find people, or I know it sounds easier than said than done, but like,
Once you find your tribe.
yeah, once you find the people that, I mean, I still contact the people from the Film Academy now and say, hey, do you want to make something, or I've got a script, do you want to read it? Just send things to people. Try and make your own stuff as much as working on other people's stuff, because making your own stuff is just as important, because you need to keep that passion going, and that's impressive to people as well, like showing them what you've done.
Take advantage of your talented friends while they do it for free as well.
Yeah, exactly,
I've
because
sort of-
soon they'll start
I've
charging
missed
you.
that part. Yeah, I needed a colorist not too long ago, and she's like, okay, that'll be 320 per day. I'm like, oh, aren't we
No,
made?
thank you.
But Millan, also, like, well, when you're at uni, I'm sure it's when you're at uni, you actually volunteered for Sheffield Doc Fest. Was it when you were at uni?
Yeah, it was, yeah, second year, yeah.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's also going to different cities, different parts of the UK, volunteering, being parts of exhibition, curation, distribution. Like, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs and departments and people who get films made and then screened and then financed and distributed and shared and everything in between.
I have very little interest in documentaries and how they're made, but it was a good fun weekend. I also went to, in Poland, they do Kameramage, which is a film festival for camera people. And I was there while I was very much in my directing phase. And whenever they showed a film, the names would come up, the DOP would come up, and then they'd all clap. The director would come up, dead silence. And I was just there like, I hope they don't realise what I'm doing here.
And yeah, it's, you know, I think search competitions, attend film screenings, attend networking events. Like, we're all petrified of going to them. And
I've
this
never
is
been to one.
I've never been to a networking event either.
What?
Like the only one that I did was the one that was with the BFI thing. Like, I've never taken my own initiative and gone to an event.
Right, well, I'm dragging you,
Yeah, I
lot.
know.
Okay.
So do it.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Just to add to the whole networking thing, it's always going to be awkward, like walking up to a bunch of people that are having a conversation and you're just like, hi, like,
Hi.
but it'll feel awkward. And like I said, I was an introvert, like in the past, and I think just exposing myself in those areas of just going to those circles and just having a friendly smile and just be like, hi guys, what's going on? It just gets easier every time, and before you realize, it's just like you're doing it and you without even realizing it. So and everyone's in the same position as well, like everyone's feeling just as awkward as you, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm like a massive introvert. And I hate like approaching people. So like going up to that person at the screening thing was massive, but it helped me get a job. So you just have to like push yourself to do it, and yeah, it helps you. So
And be a good listener.
yeah.
Because sometimes you'll go into one of those groups and you're so nervous about having to walk up to them that you're not listening to anything anyone's saying. It's just white noise,
Just
panic.
nodding.
But if you can sort of train yourself to actually listen to what people are saying and nod at the right times and then ask them questions about what they're saying, it's so much more comfortable. And people do want to talk about themselves a lot.
Well, when I went up to the person that I was talking to, I was rambling at them for like 2 minutes and saying how much I really wanted the job and to keep an eye out for my CV. And then I didn't even tell them my name. So I went off to like my friends and I went, oh God, I didn't tell them my name. I didn't want to go back. But then I just thought, I'm never going to see this person again, probably, like if this doesn't go well. So I ran back and was like, by the way, my name's Harriet, and then ran off again. But
I remember
yeah.
something I did back at the Film Academy. I don't know if you remember this, but every time we had a guest speaker, the room would clear out, everyone would leave, and I was always baffled why everyone did this. Everyone would
Speak
leave,
to them.
and then I'd go up and ask for their email, and then I'd talk to them. I got a few jobs out of that. Yeah, do that sort of thing. Come and get our emails afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to add as well, it's always important to go in with the intention, for me at least, to make friends. And, you know, the jobs are a bonus of that. Of course, you could get hired by some people, but when you go in with the intention of making friends, it's a lot easier on yourself, and you'll more likely probably get on with them. So.
Yeah, and I would say go to the cinema as much as you possibly can. And if you can get free access to Screen International, read that religiously, because people are going to ask you what was the last thing you saw. And if it's not recent, they're going to be like, oh, why is this person not going to the cinema if they want to work in film? So that's vitally important. And also there's a writer called Stephen Follows, and he collates data from all across the industry. His post today was about the fact that the industry in the UK is going to need 21,000 new entrants in the next 3 years. So there's not that many of us in this room, so we could,
40 or something.
yeah.
That'll do.
But Stephen Follows, he analyses the film industry from a data point of view, and it's so interesting. But also, if you can go into any room and be like, oh, did you see that? Stephen Fry's, that's cool. And people are like, yeah, oh my God. It's a really good conversation starter.
Fab. We have slightly run over. Which I didn't think we would. But I was wondering if the audience had one or two questions.
Stop talking at you now. You can
No.
talk back to us.
Go on then, sir.
So I'm a full-time student. I was just asking if there's any tips of like finding opportunities and stuff being a full-time student, because you don't have that much time as a full-time film student to go out and do a full-time job or projects. Was there like tips or anything?
Right. I was going to say, sorry. So, how old are you as a full-time student?
I'm 20, so
20. Oh, so at university. Oh, okay.
Talk to your lecturers. I bet they might be doing. I know. I went to Leeds Beckett, and a lot of our lecturers were part-time lecturers, and they were doing work on the side. So talk to them, see if they've got anything going that you can maybe help out on.
And actually, sorry, Millan, to jump in, but if you want to, you will find a way to schedule in time out of, out of education.
I know my course, if you had a job in the industry and you needed to miss a couple of lectures, they were like, no, go on, do it. You're doing the thing we're trying to train you to do. Just do it, come on. I know Confetti was the same with they don't want me to say that, but Confetti was the same. Yeah, they were fine with it.
I hope that's answered it.
Yeah, just to quickly add, do you mind if I ask what role you're into? Is it a particular role or?
I want to be a director.
Cool, and I'd say that's really cool, and just make sure you're, because it can be really difficult to find a scheme on the side of, being a student. Just make your own stuff and keep doing that, because even though it might feel like it's not paying off at the moment, when you then finish education and you go to apply for stuff, you can be like, I've done this, that, and the other. So it will add up, I guess.
Yeah, I totally back that up. And also, your university might have access to studio spaces, post houses, equipment that you get free access to.
Yeah, make use of those.
Full
Definitely.
use.
Yeah.
And then, like Ravi says, have a big track record when you leave. Because when people come into our fund, for example, we want to see people's previous work. And it doesn't mean that you have to have made a masterpiece whilst a student, but if we can see a progression in your talents as a director, that's really helpful.
Great. Okay, we have run over, and I know that there's a film on after this, which I'm sorry for. But I just want to say thank you very much to Alex, Ravi, Millan and Harriet for taking the time out of their busy working and personal life schedules.
Thank you, Ella.
Yeah,
You're
thanks.
so welcome. But and also just thank you for coming this evening. It's been really nice. It's been a really, really great first lab, and I hope you'll come to the following ones. We'll be starting afresh in September, so I hope to see you there. So do sign up to Broadway's newsletter. We can access all information about BFI Film Academy at Broadway, and everything that we've covered this evening will be in the description of this recorded lab on YouTube. So yeah, thank you very much. And good night.